Welcome to today's Zoom Satsang. And it's a very special day because as we approach Navratri, it seemed like the perfect day to honor our beloved Shastriji, who would always speak the night before Navratri and keep us informed on these wonderful stories, and just his whole spirit was, and I'm sure other people can say even more about that, but I'm so grateful that we can be here and that we have so many guests that I can't even name you all, but we have at least three of Sastraji's children here, some of the in-laws. We also have his nephew, BRK, and other nephews and grandnephews, and plus many people from who lived in Haidakhandi and were Sastraji very many times. So I'm going to begin by asking here to speak a little bit, because that's the beautiful video that I kept posting that hopefully you saw about Sastriji, that for those that are brand new to all of this, so that you could see um, the simplicity and the beauty, the kindness, the wisdom. How many words can we use to describe Sastriji? So go ahead, Raghu. Boli Baba Kiche.
Bole Baba ki jai. Actually, when I came to Haidakhandi, Shastriji got my respect and trust and love before Babaji did. I didn't know much about it and about coming to Haidakhandi and about meeting saints. Shastriji, his expression and his lovely eyes and his noble appearance for me was more how a saint should look like than this young Babaji, who was very challenging to look in his eyes, while Shastriji was immediately loved. So actually, I trusted him more in the first days in Haidakhandi than Babaji. And through these years, because he understood Babaji better than any of us, really. I mean, he understood through the knowledge and through what Mahendra Maharaj has told him and what he experienced. And he was telling stories or he was showing his deep devotion, which was so impressive every time when it happened that your own devotion just got a kick because of listening or being with him. One story which comes to mind now is that one time at the end of Navaratri, I was telling Shastriji that I was going to Benares to do shopping for the shop together with Karko. And he said, "Oh, you're going to Kashi." He said, "Can you bring me a Devi Bhagwat, the original one, without not bound into a book, but the original one with the loose leaves, which they used to read in the old days in Haidakhandi?" I said, "I don't know where to get." He said, "I know where to get. I will give you the address, and you please okay." And we went shortly after. We went to Benares, and we bought many things, but also this book. And then afterwards, we traveled to Rajgarh, where Shastriji lives, and we were welcomed like anything. The whole family was there, and we were welcomed into the house, and with tea and coffee and biscuits, and you name it, everything. And we were just sitting there nicely and talking, being overwhelmed with all the love and attention. And at a certain point, we sitting there and we say, "Oh yeah, and we did find the book that you were asking for." He said, "What?" And he jumped up and he said, "Show it to me." And we took out this box with the book inside, and he immediately started to give orders to the whole family and prepare on that very instant when he knew that we had this book for we just carrying a book. We didn't think so much about it, but he started to order the whole family and prepare the whole house and the garden to make a Navaratri. And he did from that instant, from the moment that we were there, he read the whole book, and we did 9 havans, and we did bandaras, and all the maidens from the girls got invited for bandara. The whole complete Navaratri, what we do in Haidakhandi, he did instantly in his house, just because the book arrived. I mean, for him, it was like the goddess who arrived to his home. We had no concept of this in that way, but it was so impressive to see that. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that still lives very much for me. That moment. Of course, I can easily fill up an hour with talking about Shastriji, because I was so fortunate that particularly it has started after Babaji's Samadhi, that mostly before and after Navaratri, I was going to pick him up and bring him home again often. So I spent a lot of very nice time with Shastriji. And that's why I know all of them very well, and it's so nice to see Sheila and Lakshmi and Narendra. And where is Bubbly and Bubbly? Yeah. Should I go on, or will somebody else tell the story? One time I'm picking up Shastriji, and I'm sitting in the garden in the morning at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, I don't know. I was getting up a regular time. And all of a sudden I see that Shastriji is coming out of the house and going towards where in his house is different departments where the cows are. And he had his own very simple little bathroom there. And I was walking with him to see if I could open a gate or be of any service at all. And then he went to the bathroom, and he took his shower there, which he did alone by himself. But I was standing close by, and I heard him repeating something. So I got really curious to hear what he was repeating while he was doing his bath. And he was repeating the arti. And the arti is particularly the Munindra Stava from Om Kailash Girivare Ramye. If you see what the meaning of that is, that is the most beautiful piece also from Mahendra Maharaj, who wrote that, how that those slokas, particularly the first 9, how they embody Babaji. So the first thing what he was doing was embodying Babaji, actually. And he did that then for all day long, but I mean, he started his day off with that. And of course, that's a very private thing, which I'm telling here, but I never forgot, and it is still, I have actually started to practice myself. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Rag. VRK,
welcome.
You want to step in with a story about Shastriji?
Thank you, Ramluti ma'am. It's my pleasure and privilege to join this big group. And really, what I have to say about Shastriji is that my father, Girdhari Lal, he died at the age of 49, and he took care of all of us, 4 sons and 1 daughter in Rajgarh. So,
do you want to say any more? Or?
Yeah. So, he was like a friend, he was like our uncle, everything. I visited many times with him to Haidakhandi as a small boy. And I have seen Babaji, 4 o'clock, he will wake up everybody, 3:30, 4 o'clock with a stick. Being a small boy, I was very upset why he hits me. Then Shastriji will take me for a bath in Batam Ganga. So my journey with Shastriji was like a friend. Many times, anything and everything I can ask with him. So I have many interviews which are not yet published, which I was talking to him on Vedas, on Gita. Like many people nowadays, they teach art of living. In one of the interview, he was talking on art of dying, which is mentioned in Gita. So that maybe if somebody wants to look at that interview when he was at the age of 95, I'll share with him. So it was means I cannot explain in words what my experiences are, but he is everything for us. At every step, he guided us. I have seen Mahendra Swamiji Maharaj. I went with him to Vrindavan. With my father also, I used to go there as a small, maybe 4 or 5 years. I have a very big memory of Mahendra Swamiji. Last week, I visited Vrindavan temple. I shared the video to Ramloti Ma. So it was a great experience, and it was means the shlokas, the mantras, and all that which I can recite today in Sanskrit. It's all because of him. So I think I'll keep adding. Other people should speak. It's family members if anything comes. Bole Baba ki jai.
Thank you. Lakshmi, do you want to share something about Papa?
Yes. Actually, Shastriji was an embodiment of, I must say, sannyasi and grihasthi. He preached about the ultimate truth as well as going for worldly desires also. And he preached to have a balance of both the worlds. Where once I visited Rajgarh during my holidays, he very kindly gave me a book, Haidakhandi Sapsati, his own copy. He used to recite Haidakhandi Sapsati from that book only. And he very kindly gave it to me and told me, asked me to recite it on daily basis. And I'm even today reciting it on daily basis. And believe me, it's a very wonderful collection of mantras. The mantras mentioned in the book are very, very powerful, and everybody can get benefited by this Haidakhandi Sapsati. Recently, I have prepared a soft copy, PDF copy of his book, this Haidakhandi Sapsati. If anybody wants to have a PDF copy, I can definitely share with them. And one thing I must add, once I visited Rajgarh during Navratris. He was preparing for his Havan. And meanwhile, Pinky came to us and asked her to have a breakfast. I said, no, first I'll like to have Havan, then I'll have breakfast. Then he told me, oh, Kamarsa, why are you worrying about that? Kamarsa means son here in India. So why are you worrying? She is a mother. Haidakhandi is our mother, and a mother shall never like his children to be hungry. First, have your breakfast, then we'll have one. And I'll also take breakfast with you. Such was his approach. Very simple, very pure, and very kind-hearted. And I must say, he was a very higher spiritual level, very, very higher level, where all these boundaries abolished. And I can recall the day when he left his heavenly abode. When his body was removed from the bed, we found a paper under his pillow. I believe that paper should be available, Chandrakant, right now also. And it was having a very important message on the paper. It read like that: I am confused. My heart is burnt due to pains. I am exhausted of multiple cycles of birth, old and death in this world. Give the peace to my tired mind in the shelter of your lotus feet. Oh, the goddess, mistress of the world, the giver of boons, give me your shelter, protect me from the worldly sufferings. This was his last message, which we found under his pillow. And the original text is mentioned in his Haidakhandi Sapsiti also, Shlok number 11, in the second part. It is Hindi translation of that Sanskrit sloka. Now the point is, during the last moment, final moments, where did the paper come to him, pen come to him, and he was not having physical power to write at that moment. He was unconscious for, I must be say, more than a month. But how did he manage to get the paper and get the paper and write this? I believe it was some divine power only, which arranged pen, paper, and writing on this paper. And it definitely uh, gives us an indication that he was a counselor of Ma Bhagavati, Haidakhandi Devi, and Bole Baba. And he was an ardent disciple of Mahendra Maharaj. Whenever we met, he always praised Mahendra Baba along with Babaji. And he owed all his success to Babaji as well as Mahendra Maharaj. He never forgot Mahendra Maharaj, his guru. That's all. Bole Baba ki jai.
Bole Baba ki jai. Thank you. Beautiful. Sheila?
Bol. Hi, namaste all. Bole Baba ki jai. I'm Upinder Sharma, Tamil of Shastriji. So actually, whenever I met Shastriji, I met just like a family member. But whenever I read and know about him, that he is just like a banyan tree who has so many big branches, and he is a prolific writer, Sanskrit scholar of repute, and was one of the Shri Mahendra Baba Maharaj's closest disciple. During his discipline with Mahendra Baba, Shastriji received profound preparation of recognize and serve the Lord in his so many years of hard work. And whenever Babaji give any short informal talks in his ashram, and wherever he go, at the Himalayas or any city, he always asks by him to repeat his word, every word, before they were translated into English. Shastri is just like the mouthpiece of the Babaji. Who's coming, he had helped to prepare with his writings and whatever Baba has told to the. So for me, I can say he's just like my father, and particularly I am very fortunate to meet him in person. And he always very close, very close to whoever come to him and whoever want to any type of knowledge. And we are fortunate that still we are all together with Baba and Shastriji. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheila and Bhupender. Thank you. Narendra?
Yes. My wife will let you know something. Now.
Bole Baba ki jai.
Yay.
She's not listening. What to say about Shastriji? He was not the father-in-law of me, but he was the father for all the children. Not only for me, but everyone. And I don't have the words to say about Shastriji. I was blessed by Shastriji. Every time, today also, he is with me. Thank you. Bole
Bole
Baba
Baba
ki
ki
jai.
Yeah, thank you. Narendra, do you want to say anything more? What was it like growing up as a child with Shastriji as your father?
difficult to say something, but I saw him when he was writing his book, Haidakhandi, Sadashu. Then he was very, very busy day and night. And he has around 70 notebooks of that book. And he was very much busy with the work of that printing of that book. And my sister Sheila was helping him a lot at the for the writing work of that book. And I think he was doing that work since so many years. Bole Baba ki jai.
Thank you. Thank you. Prakash, did you, so Birke, make sure I reach all the, Prakash, did you want to share about Shastriji?
Bole Baba ki jai.
Bole Baba ki jai.
I'm very much thankful to V.R.K. Mishra ji. He provided me, he support me to meet all the family members. I do belong to the family of Shastriji, and as his eldest Samila told that he is daily reading the Haidakhandi Saptashati. As such, Shastriji even presented me Haidakhandi Saptashati some 36 years back, and as on today also daily I recite that book, I read that book. First, after taking work, I remember him, and as I read this book, right now I am not in a position to share everything today itself. Maybe in our next meeting, I will come out with my personal experience, and I belonging to the Shastri family, and I am very much thankful to Rajraj Mishra for introducing me to Shastriji. Because of him only, I came in touch with Shastriji. I spent with him more than 8 years. Every week, every second week, I used to meet Rajgarh, and I used to spend with all the family members, and especially Sheila. He is the main communicator with Shastriji for the people coming from abroad, and she used to take care of everybody. And Ammaji, as I said, Mrs. Shastriji, she used to take care of everybody who is coming to their house and provide food prepared by her loveliness and kindness. She is nothing like Annapurna. She is the most, what I say, she is full Annapurna. And still I remember the taste of her dishes, and I proudly say, as on today also, I have never ate the food so far what I ate in Rajasthan. Thank you very much. Bole
Baba ki jai. I am Tejasvi, daughter of Prakash Kharke and Vijayalakshmi Kharke. I actually never, I was very small when I saw Shastriji. I don't remember the face, but with my parents' experience, I can say yes, they met a very, they met a bigger saint, and that sanskar what you tell are on me. I feel so. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving this opportunity to us. Thank you so much. Bole Baba ki jai.
Bole Baba ki jai. Thank you. So, Karku, would you like to share? Or we also have other Dipti. So really, this is your time to all share as one story reminds you of another. I'm going to just share something real fast here. You're all talking about.
I think
I'll
I'll
join in.
interrupt here. I think Pinky also has joined. I am seeing her. Pinky, you were asking about Pinky. I'm able to see her.
Okay, let me see if I can find Pinky. Pinky. What?
Priyanshi.
Ah, here you are. Hi, Pinky. Bole Baba Kiche. Can you say a few words about, I mean, I was just watching Raghuvir's video about Babaji, about Shastriji, excuse me, and you're walking around and whenever, think of, I'd hear Shastriji going, Pinky. And then visiting you when you got married, after you got married. Can you share a few words, Pinky, please? You have to unmute though, honey. Do you know how to unmute?
I think Pinky is shy.
Okay. Pinky, if you don't want to share, then we'll share, but we're so happy to see you. And you look just like you did when you were a teenager.
Pinky, it's so wonderful to see you. You don't need to speak. I have so many memories just seeing you. It's wonderful. Bole Baba Ki Jai.
Thank you. Karku, did you want to say something? There's Karku.
Bole Baba Ki Jai.
Bole Baba Ki Jai, Karku.
I think Jamnu and I are just completely overwhelmed by this experience of having all of Shastriji's family join us like this. This is really incredible. And it just brings back so many memories. It's really amazing. So I also had the great honor, and many of you will remember me, I was visiting with Shastriji in Rajgarh since 1977. And I have to say that Shastriji is the one who really showed us day in and day out by his constant focus and devotion, how important it was to see Babaji in everything that we do, in every breath, in every thought, in every action, in every rock, and on the river as it flowed by. Shastriji saw Babaji everywhere, and his enthusiasm and his depth made that alive for all of us. And he inducted us. And he still, just remembering Shastriji, it still inducts us into really understanding Babaji in the present and experiencing him alive with us. So to hear all of you talk about these wonderful experiences, that he was in both worlds, that he was a real man living in the real world and you could get real advice from him. But he was also at such a high spiritual level that he was so unbelievably connected to Babaji and the mother and to Mahinda Maharaj, and later also to Muniraji. I'm a little overwhelmed with you all here today. I'm remembering stories with when Jamna wanted to know about her own father. Maybe she'll share that. Maybe she'll share that in a second. And I'm just, Shastriji inducted us into faith. He inducted us into faith. And he showed us really, really how to take pleasure in the most simple things. Could you share, because I can't?
I remember one time, Bole Baba Ki Jai, one time Muni Raji was doing one of his birth, I think in the 90s.
Yes.
And we were somewhere in Europe. This is a different story.
I know I know the story.
And Karko and he was taking a break. And so people were busy, maybe they were having their one-on-one chats with Muni Raji in the afternoon. So Shastriji was having afternoon tea and we were sitting with him. And Karko and I at the time had met a very gifted Vedic astrologer whose name was Ajit, and some of you got to meet him. And we had questions to Shastriji about astrology, about Vedic astrology. And we asked him, like, what factor is astrology? Like what kind of an impact? Is it 10%? Is it 20%? You know, complete beginners in total innocence and ignorance, just asking him. And he said 100%, 100% in this passionate way he used to talk, where he used his whole body, right? And you know, I think I'm a typical Westerner that, you know, I thought, Shastriji, 100%? It's 100. He said 100% because it's the gods. The planets are the gods, you know. And you know, my Western mind was like, but how's that possible? And then Karko said, yeah, I mean, how can it be 100%? If the planets are the gods and it's 100%, then Shastriji, then we don't need to do anything. Then I could just stay seated here. I don't have to do anything if it's 100% all in the stars and with the gods. And I'll never forget this. It was so exactly Shastriji goes, Karko, you try to just sit here and do nothing.
He said, may I jump in? He said, the hand's job is to move. The mind's job is to think. The mouth's job is to speak. You think you can outdo what is already written, then you just sit here and do nothing.
You try to do nothing.
Don't move until I come back. And then he walked out of the room.
And it was one of those very tiny little windows into, for him, all of it was coming from divine. And there was no separation. And he made it so real and unforgettable. Another time, my father was very, very sick. Well, with Shastriji with me, because I had some of my most beautiful and sacred moments with Babaji were with Babaji, Shastriji, and myself. Many, many times during the time in Haidakhandi and in Chilianola, but primarily Haidakhandi. And then I didn't come back to India for many years, I think for 11 years. And of course, when I came back, Babaji was no more in his body, physical body there.
I can't get my picture to show on the screen.
So when I went back after 11 years, and Shastriji and I saw him again, and it was a beautiful, heartful connection, of course, and very emotional for me. And he found out I had studied traditional Chinese medicine. And he used to, for many years after that, every time I saw him, he wanted me to check his pulse and give him medical advice. And I knew it was his way of trying to build my confidence. I absolutely knew he did not need any advice from me, but he knew I had just finished my training. You know, I was a newbie, I had no confidence. And every time he's like, please, please. And he would have me check his pulse and then give him advice, dietary advice. You know, it was so sweet. I knew he was doing it for me, not because he needed it, but it was so generous and thoughtful and kind. And he would remember and then give me a follow-up next time. Oh, I tried that food you told me, it helped me with this, you know. But the one thing he would not allow, and that was also a big teaching, was acupuncture. And he said it was too invasive because it would affect his sort of his subtle energy body. And that was a big teaching to me. That was how refined his energy was, that acupuncture would have been too invasive. Many stories, he helped me with my father's cancer. He helped me with my mother's health condition. He could see with that little mirror that Babaji gave him that he could look at. He gave me teachings that were invaluable for me, just nuggets at the right moment. My love and respect for him as a embodiment of devotion and wisdom, and exactly that, walking the worldly world and being beyond the worldly, is extraordinary. So I feel grateful that we had the times. When we lived in Kathmandu, we visited often. Once we moved to Thailand, it was more challenging and difficult, sadly.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I just want to add one more little thing, because I know many people would like to speak. Shastriji had a sense of humor. Shastriji was infinitely kind, and he was a man full of love. Whenever we traveled with Shastriji, and I took him all over the world several times, and I was always the cook, and I prepared all the food. And I'll never forget that one time, I don't remember if it was in America or in Europe, but one time I kind of messed up the meal one day, and and we were sitting down, because we just arrive at anybody's house anytime, and in an hour I had to figure out the kitchen and start preparing food for Shastriji and Muniraja. All their food had to be fresh for every time. And Shastriji looked at me and said, "Karku, your food, it's as good as Haidakhandi." He had a great sense of humor. Bole Baba Ki Jai. We can talk forever about Shastriji.
JD, you told me that, can you hear me, JD? You told me that you spent much time with Shastriji getting Babaji his bath, and that during those times Shastriji gave you teachings. If I heard this correctly, would you be willing to share a story about that? JD in those days was called Ramdas, and many of you know him. He came to Shastriji also in his home many times.
For me, trying to think how to organize the brain for this one. I arrived in India not being so familiar with all the belief structures and so forth. But so I had a lot to learn. But the one thing that was really quite remarkable was when I was a little boy, my grandfather would take me into his private space, and if I was good, he would give me a lollipop and be very kind and sweet to me. Anyway, my grandfather died when I was very young. I think I was 5 years old. And so I really missed him. And experiencing Shastriji, I can't speak of him the way many of you are, because it wasn't a culture that I was so familiar with. But just as a human being in a family, and as a grandfather, the head of a family, Shastriji for me became my grandfather. And so he would take over that role many times when we were together. And there would be times when Babaji was trying to tell me something, including a mantra that I should be saying or something like that. And Shastriji would step up and say, excuse me, Lord, it has too many syllables. You need to cut it down. And Babaji would look at Shastra and say, you are telling me? And Shastriji would get all flustered and go, no, really, it's quite all right. And then, but really, you should have, and it was so hilarious because he was so knowledgeable, and as everyone has described, in such an altered state a lot of the time, yet he was so human and kind. And I remember one time there was something that had appeared growing on Babaji's body that normally shouldn't be there. And Babaji told me to get rid of it. And Shastriji got very nervous. And I had to clean this area and take care. And he was just so meticulous. He was right here, talking right into my ear to make sure that I heard him, while he guided me on the proper procedure to even touch Babaji. I was accustomed to giving Babaji his bath quite frequently. And many, many times Shastriji was there. And so it was, he was my funny grandfather for me. He later instructed me in things like building yantras and things like that, and things about mantras. But the thing that really stands out was his kindness, coupled with his concern that I do things properly according to tradition and custom. And he taught me that. So sometimes I became a little annoyed with him when I would ask him a question and he wouldn't tell me the answer. But it was again talking to Granddad, and I cared about him very much that way. It was, he was for me also a bridge to the deeper part of what Babaji is.
Thank you, JD. Beautiful. A bridge for us all, yes. I wanted to share that when we were talking about the Saptasati, I mean, if I said one word about the Saptasati, he would know exactly what verse and what, he would just start saying the whole verse. And he told me that, Ramloti, when I was writing the Saptasati, the Divine Mother was right next to me at every moment, giving me the words. So it's really her words to all of us. And many people have already expressed what a gift it is to read it every day. I happened to read it in English, and I asked Shastriji because I never learned it in Hindi and Sanskrit. And my aptitude for that is very low anyways. And so I said, Shastriji, is it okay that I read it in English, and here at the ashram we read it in English? He said, oh yes, Ramloti, Mother understands every language. And that was Shastriji. I also told him I was horrible at the mantras for the Havan. And I I said, I don't know what to do. And he said, don't worry, I'll always be there to take care of you and I'll be with you. And so the big ovens, I always put the cloak on that he gave me, the cloth. And I always say, okay, Shastriji, you're on, because I'm hopeless at these kind of things. And so I just also felt like he was our father. Yeah. And to comment on, I think somebody was, Jumna was talking about, how everything, he was just so connected. I remember one speech he gave where he said, everyone is all the time. Oh, like you were saying, Karku, about, he said, you have hands to speak, to, do things, you have a mouth to speak, you have a mind to think. So try not doing anything in this Rajasic body. But I remember in one speech he gave, he said, everyone is the devotee of the Divine Mother. The soldiers are devotees of Durga. They're the warriors, and merchants are the devotees of Mother Lakshmi. And they're always, wanting to make money, Mother Lakshmi. And all the teachers and students and people like that, they're all the devotees of Mother Saraswati. So everyone is all the time honoring and expressing the Divine Mother. And that was his inclusivity. He saw the whole world as Mother, Baba. And I just love the story of what you found under his pillow. So thank you. Yeah.
Shastriji himself was also the best storyteller there is. I mean, Babaji was calling him the voice, but sometimes he would say something and immediately would tell Shastriji to fill up. But Shastriji would make from 3 words of Babaji, he would immediately, like if you push a button, he would start speaking and fill the room or the hall. So wonderful. One story which, because he was also so easy to approach, you couldn't really go to talk to Babaji. That really worked most of the time. But Shastriji, on the right moment, you could ask also normal things. So for more than a year, he slept in this tiny little kutir of Babaji. He slept with Babaji when they were cooking up the 9th chapter of the Sadashiva Charitamrita. But I was asking Shastriji once, what were you doing all the time when you were with Babaji in that room? Because he spent all the time in that room. So curious to ask for, what were you doing all the time? He said, well, I just do what I always do. I read my Haidakhandi Saptasati and I read the Durga Saptasati. But what he was always doing, he said, oh, and out loud. He said, yes. I said, what was Babaji doing then when you were doing that? He said he was listening. He said, every day he was listening to you doing the same. He said, of course. I said, of course? Yeah. Who do you think? Who is listening to your prayers? What do you think? That was for me such a wake-up call because yeah, you make your prayers, but all of a sudden, Babaji was not a normal person. We were relating to him as a normal person and you interact, but that he could listen every day to your prayers, that is something almost inconceivable. Yeah. Another story which Shastriji told me once is that in that period that he was sleeping in the room with him, that in the night Shastriji wakes up and there was this little deepa, a little light was burning all night in the room. So with a lot of difficulty, you could see a little bit. And Shastriji noticed that there was, Babaji was not in his bed. And he thought, hey, how strange. So he was looking for the door, but then he noticed that the door was bolted from the inside. So then he got really worried and he looked around. Well, there's not much to look in that little kutir because it's 3 square meters. So he said, Baba, Baba. And then he heard all of a sudden this voice said, yes, I'm here. Don't be afraid. And he materialized sitting on his bed, right in front of Shastriji. Shastriji came with this story. And another amazing story from Shastriji, which he, when he was visiting Italy for the first time, when he came to the Sister Nino Ashram. You know, the Sister Nino Ashram is the big ashram, but actually older than the Sister Nino, than that ashram is just across the street is the ashram from Farwa and Faruli. Very simple, small little ashram, which was made before. So on one of the first nights that Muniraj and Shastriji shared one room in the middle of the ashram, and Shastriji, but this house of Farwa Faruli is almost a kilometer away from the ashram. In the middle of the night, actually the story is like this, that Farwa woke up and heard somebody in his house at a certain point, and he woke up, switched on the light, and he saw Shastriji in the middle of his house, a kilometer away from the ashram. He said, what is this? What, Shastriji, is it? Oh yes. Yeah. He said, what are you doing? He said, I'm looking for the toilets. Shastriji said, but of course that wasn't true. but and Farwa brought him back to the room where Muniraji was, and went to sleep. But Shastriji didn't say anything to anybody about it. But the next day, Farwa started to talk about this story from, and Muniraji heard about this. Shastriji, what happened? Were you around in the night? But of course, Shastriji went to look for that old temple that is somehow of Munindra Maharaj, the first one which Babaji said to make there, and that Shastriji went in the middle of the night, guided there somehow. How was it possible? Shastriji was already 80 years old, that he started to walk around in the fields and through the fields and roads in Italy, where he was for the first time. He ended up in the house of Farwa. Shastriji was really very particular and very guided and connected in the most amazing way. Yeah.
Thank you, Raghu. I see Annie Laird. Do you want to tell a story? I know you many times, so I think it's good for everybody to know. So many of the family members know that many times Westerners came for years to Shastriji. It was after Babaji left his body, but he inspired us all. And so I've asked a few of those folks to get on and share with you so that you can hear also. Go ahead, Annie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I got to India for the first time with Sandra Ray on an India quest that she was doing in the fall of every year to take people to Baba's ashram and to Navaratri up in Chile. First we go to Haidakhandi, then we go to Chilianola for Navaratri. So I ended up doing that, working with her for 5 years straight, consistently. So on the third year, I was part of her staff. And if you were a part of her staff going with this India Quest group, you got to go to Shastriji's house for a week before. And so on the third year, we went. And the thing that I remember most about it is being in Shastriji's home in that compound. The peace and love, it was like being in a dream. There was that, for all the chaos that's outside the walls of the compound, inside with the family, and there was just this incredible sense of peace. You felt so loved. You were so taken care of. Pinky was one of the ones who took care of us all the time. Every afternoon, we would have taken a nap, and in the afternoon she would bring us chai, and she would bring us sandwiches. And it was just an energy. It was just the energy. I think that's why we were supposed to be there as the staff, to prepare us for the people that were coming a lot of times for the first time to India, and to go to Haidakhandi and to Chilianola. But one of the times there was a dormitory, and the women, there were probably about 10 women that we stayed in the dormitory, and then the men stayed. I forgot where they stayed anyway. So one morning, we were the girls were getting ready. We were all dressed and everything. And in walks Shastriji into our dorm room, the women's dorm, which was very unusual. He doesn't ever do that. And so he came over, and he was near my cot where I was. And in my little space, I had in the windowsill, I had a statue of Tara that I had bought in Santa Fe. And I just brought it with me. I was so new to all of this, all the rituals and stuff, but I don't know why I had this with me. But anyway, it was like when I was leaving home, she raised her hand and said, I want to go to India too. So anyway, Shastriji walks into the room. He's standing there, and he said, you, and he's looking at Tara. He says, bring Tara to the Havan tomorrow. I will give her life. I have the power. And he's, hitting his chest like that very strongly. And I went, okay. So anyway, for Havan, I brought we were having the fire. I brought her, and he gave her life. And Pinky had gone into town and bought a little chuni for her, and had brought me some anklets. If she even remembers me at all. Anyway, but it was, and so he taught me even how to do the puja to Tara. He would take me to the tree, and we would pick the flower for her. So it was absolutely the most incredible thing. That was 27 years ago, and I have been continuing to do that's apparently Baba wanted me to make sure that I stuck with this tradition, so he gave me somebody to take care of definitely for the rest of my life. So it's been actually 27 years last month that I had started that practice, and of course it has totally grown since then. Another time though, just because of this power he had, this energy, I mean, when he wanted you to get it, you got it. And so I had, I think Ramloti and I and my husband had gone to Shastriji's house, because we were going for Paduka Puja in Delhi, but we went to see him for a few days. So I'm there with my husband. He was a new husband. And when we were there, all of a sudden he comes up to me one day, Shastriji comes up to me, and he said, I sent you a good man, didn't I? Was true. That was 27 years ago too. So I am very grateful. I'm very grateful for that family, and for the love that we all received from them. The hospitality of the Indians it puts Americans to shame for sure. They were so incredibly loving. So I really appreciate my connections with him, and still have that connection with Shastriji too. My memories. Bali Baba Ki Jai.
You, Annie. Bali Baba Ki Jai. Somebody else would like to share a story?
I see that Hiraman is online. He must have nice stories.
Hiraman, where's yours? Share with us, please. Maybe we lost him, or he lost connection.
Oh, maybe he's gone. I don't see him anymore now.
Sharda, are you able to share? There's Sharda. Hi, Sharda. You have to unmute, sweetheart, and then we'll hear from Hiraman, or vice versa. Who wants to speak first? There's Pinky just listening to it all.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here to be able to honor Shastriji. And like Karko, I feel very, very overwhelmed and moved by everybody sharing. And I think I'd like to share with you the first time I met Shastriji. It was in Holland at Buri's house, and I was going to have a reading. I went into a small room. I believe Rago was there, and I did my pranam. And as I came up, Shastriji was very far forward, peering into my face very closely. And as he was peering at me, I just started dissolving into tears, uncontrollable tears. And I just felt myself being completely stripped of everything, but in a remarkable way. He kept saying to me, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Giving me tissues, and I was uncontrollable. I just sobbed and sobbed. And I really don't remember too much about that meeting, other than he told me I should come home and I must come to his home. And the whole Dutch experience of being with the Dutch devotees, of being on that trip, was very remarkable and transformative for me. And during that time, Shastriji gave me my name, which is something I had no intention of receiving or thinking about. Anyway, I did make my trip some months later to Shastriji's home, and to be in his home, to be with everybody, the family. I see Sheila, Bhupendra, and Pinky. This all happened in the mid-80s. It's such a long part of my life, my history, my family's life. For me, Shastriji was unconditional love. He loved me so unconditionally. And as he taught me things, he did it with such love that I never felt reprimanded. I never felt criticized. I always felt I was wrapped in this beautiful blanket of love as I was directed in a teaching, or whether it be spiritual or family. It was a transformative experience that is so much with me. And I try to remember this level of always trying to be in a position of unconditional love. Whenever I find myself going to, I'm British, we were brought up, quite critically in our school system, we're quite judgmental. When I find myself going to that place, it's almost like I can feel Shastriji with me saying, just peace. And that was my continuing journey. I went to Shastriji every year until he left us. And also, I would just like to share that the last year before Shastriji died, I was trying to go to India with my family, and it looked like we probably couldn't go because my younger son couldn't leave school. And all of a sudden, a teacher became the spokesperson, said we must absolutely take his schoolwork, go on the trip. And suddenly all the arrangements were very quickly made. Whilst we were in Haidakhandi, we heard that Shastriji had been ill and that he had been in hospital. He had come home, and he wasn't really conscious. So I thought, well, we obviously cannot go to see the family. This would be very intrusive, but I should at least make a phone call and, say. And they said, absolutely not, you must come. You absolutely must come. So we carried with our plans to go to Rajgarh, and we were able to be there with Shastriji. And on about the third day, he regained consciousness and he asked for me, and I ran to his bedside. I was able to be with him, and in the emotion of the moment, I had forgotten he put his hand up to bless you, but I thought he was putting his hand up for me to hold. So I grabbed his hand, I was squeezing his hand, and he was squeezing back, and he said to me, Sharda, you've come, you've come, you've come. You're here in my heart. And it was the greatest gift. That was, and so that was the beginning of my journey with Shastriji. And the last time I saw him, maybe 2 weeks before he left, and I feel incredibly blessed and privileged to have been a part of his family, to see him in that setting in Rajgarh, and to all of the family. I'm so, so grateful, and it's so meaningful to me. So I'm happy to be here just honoring Shastriji today. Thank you. Oh, sure.
I so love that story. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Herman is there.
Herman.
Well, as I've been listening, I was moving bees this morning, so I couldn't be on the video, but I've been listening, and it's just, I don't think any of us can even think of Shastriji without having a smile and warmth in our heart. And I mean, what more can you say about a person that's reached so many of us, you know? And just the epitome of kindness and love and encouragement. You know, I think he always encouraged all of us just to be the best part of ourselves and just unconditional love. I mean, incredibly lovely human.
Do you remember a particular moment with him, Herman?
Just spent so many moments with Baba and Shastriji. And Shastriji was just always so attuned to Babaji, you know, and also attuned to, like, I think someone earlier said, like a bridge, he was, for me, he was always kind of like, just always there supporting, you know, like so many times we'd just be on the river, the three of us, and it was just so easy. Just everything was so easy with, and Babaji just loved Shastriji so much. I mean, he loved us all, but with Shastriji, he just was in that delight mode so much, you know, that it was just inexpressible times, you know, like, and not even so much of what was being said, is just the whole feel of, and the field of being with them was just utter light, you know, just like on this cellular level where your whole being just started to bubble with joy. And I really feel like we've been amazingly lucky to have Shastriji in our life also, you know.
Thank you, Herman. Yeah.
Shastriji was a fantastic playmate for Babaji. Babaji didn't do everything what, yeah, he kept his own. One time in Bombay, I don't know if Babaji, I think Babaji is sitting on the asana, but he had dressed up Shastriji as a sardar with a beard and a turban and a whole, and he was brought in, but brought into in the kirtan hall, in the big tent behind the flat, but there was 500 people, 1,000 people there. Were a lot of people there. And somehow Babaji gave him from the distance already a lot of attention, because nobody knew who he was. nobody knew who Shastriji was because he was all dressed up with a black beard and a big turban, and it was so much fun was made. And Shastriji, of course, was just doing what he was told to do by Babaji, but it was such an hilarious moment that it took. We only found out later that it was Shastriji because he never took that beard off and he never took the turban off. Only, and not even everybody knew that. Only when we told it, because only later back in the house in the apartment of Dr. Clark, it came out that he was that it was Shastriji. And Babaji was, how many pictures there are from Babaji cutting the beautiful mustache of Shastriji? It's amazing how the love exchange between these two. Babaji, Shastriji was also, of course, full respectful to Babaji, but he was a fantastic playmate for Babaji. One of the most beautiful scriptures we have also from the very little things that we have from Babaji is the Gorakwani, which Babaji addresses Shastriji, really, Kamalo. It is such an inspiring piece of literature. Yeah. Yeah.
And Jamna, I'm concerned about your battery, so I would like to see if you would like to share a little bit more because you forgot your plug-in. So before you get cut off, do you have more to share?
I do. I think I would like to flesh out the story about my father. He had been diagnosed with cancer, and we were visiting in Rajgarh. We were visiting Shastriji and his family, and truly being received with the warmth and generousness and kindness that we have been sharing here, the family as much as Shastriji. And at one point, he asked me if I had any questions. Sorry, if the connection is a little bit funny. And I said, I just would like to ask you about my.
Whoops. Did I do something?
There, okay, we're back. And so he asked me if I had any questions, anything I wanted to ask. And I said, I wanted to ask about my father's cancer. And, he got quiet and then he looked and then he explained to me that this little silver piece that Babaji had given it to him, and that Babaji had told him that he could look there and know everything, and that it was like a TV that Babaji had given him, and where he could see anything. And so he looked, and he said that now it was in the liver, and that he needed to drink cow's urine in a particular way, et cetera, and that could cure him. And so I contacted my father, and at that point, from Western medicine, they had just done checks and they couldn't find any metastasis. And I begged my father to do the cow urine cure, which is, if any of you know men from Texas, my father was a Texan guy. There was no way he was going to do that, and I said, please, and he said he tried, but he couldn't do it. And sure enough, 2 months later, they found a spot in the liver. And this story comes up because Shastriji presented so human, so earthy, so accessible and relatable. And at the same time, he had this, not just wisdom, but this direct connection. This like he never wasn't in that state of communion with Babaji, with the divine, with the mother. But he brought it all the way through into the householder, into the ordinary, what we call the ordinary human realm. And there just wasn't a disruption. At another time, I asked him about my mother a few years later, and he tuned in, and then same with the little TV that Babaji gave him. And he said, oh, her Kundalini it has risen, but it got stuck right in here. And it kind of has gone over to the side. And it's okay, but she needs to do this and this and this and this. And it'll straighten back up and go up, you know. And my mother was having exactly certain kinds of symptoms, etc. So just, he was generous, he was connected, he was a blessing in very mundane ways, but these were my parents, you know. And it was, you never expected. It was like this abundant, generous, caring. It was almost like a mother, but as a father. And for me, it was really healing because I had a very absent father and also a very tough Germanic style father. So it was very healing to be with a father figure that was so loving and kind, and at the same time, very much a father. And as I said, not that I want to share more, but some of my most beautiful, sacred moments of teachings with Babaji, Shastriji was present. And that just deepened and solidified the relationship, the connection. One I will share that was very, very funny, and then I'll stop. But I was 21 when I went to see Babaji but I was going on 14. And I had lived a very sheltered life, and I knew nothing about gurus, India, nothing. And I arrived in December of 1982. And within the first few weeks, I remember one afternoon, after Babaji's nap, when he was having his afternoon tea, I had been asked to come to his quarters, you know, that large place. And Shastriji was there with Babaji, and Shastriji was reading, sitting against the wall reading, and sacred scriptures. And Babaji was sitting under the big tree looking over the riverbed, drinking a cup of tea. And I was seated close to where Shastriji was against the wall also, in an absolute terror and panic. I think I'd been there all of a week or two maximum. And here I was in this moment, and I was like doing Om Namah Shivaya internally at about 1,000 miles an hour. Just absolute, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Just my anxiety, my discomfort, my, you know, it was not a moment that I could relax into, not even close. And I felt supremely inadequate to be there. And there's Shastriji reading his sacred text, and there's Babaji, you know, in his communion, and you know, what can we say, where Babaji was. And I just was like, oh my God. And in the middle of this train of Om Namah Shivaya inside that was going so rapidly, all of a sudden Babaji turns around and goes to me, shh. And Shastriji stops his reading and looks at me and looks at Babaji and goes back. And I'm shocked. I'm just sort of like, oh my God, I have no privacy. And I just sort of felt very, very sheepish and kind of like, what do I do now? And then after, I don't know, really don't know how much time, all of a sudden Babaji called me close to me and and I had quieted down. It had been such a shock, it had quieted me down. And then he leaned over and whispered my mantra to me. But it was again shared with Shastriji, with his mantras going. So for me, in a way, they're inseparable. Bole Baba ki jai.
Another.
From Loti, if I may, I would like to ask Sheila to tell, oh, sorry, am I interrupting you, Kako?
It's
We
okay.
have one bar.
It's
We're
okay,
about
Raghu.
to disconnect.
Our battery's going to go dead in a second. I just wanted to share that. I just wanted to share two little things. One is that Babaji we saw him as God, and we were awestruck to be in Babaji's presence. But Shastriji, and both Shastriji and Muniraji, who Babaji pointed us to, were human and accessible. And they were always in the present. They were always connected with Babaji. And whenever we were in their presence, we got inducted into that being present in the divinity. in the Lord, in consciousness. And both Shastriji and Muniraji spent all of their time praying, being connected. They never weren't. Muniraji had to sit in his office and do his work, but he was always connected. But every morning, no matter what, no matter where, Shastriji, no matter what, no matter where, always was with his book, always communing, always there. And I traveled with them both around the world many, many times, and lived with them intensely for so many, many years. And they were always there in this communion. And there was one other little piece that Shastriji lived in this world of Sanskrit. He lived in this world of mantra. He used, and we could learn from that by staying focused on the mantras, on the prayers, that you could break through into a bigger reality, into this divine consciousness or bigger awareness. And sometimes when you would speak to Shastriji, he'd have to shake himself out of where he was and then kind of re-enter this reality. And we could experience that. You could experience that. And then he would, you'd have to ask your question again, and then he'd pull out the answer, and then he'd disappear back, and you'd see him go back to the mantra and the prayer ongoing. And it was always the most extraordinary thing. And the thing that always inspired me the most was these two men and their absolute focus, always on returning to be focused on this, that we live in the presence of God. And it's just amazing. It's so honored to be with all of you, and the family and everything. My computer's going to hit any second, so thank you. And if we don't stay on longer,
it's only
sorry
because
to
of
miss.
that,
Sorry to miss the last few minutes with all of you.
Yeah,
Much
thank
love.
you, Ramloti, for remembering that. But we're here. We'll mute, and then at one point we won't be here. But thank you. Bole Baba ki jai, Bole Baba ki jai.
Sheila, would you mind sharing that beautiful story of where in the room where Shastriji and the boys all were sleeping, where there is this picture of Mahendra Maharaj on the wall that I think it was your grandmother or grandfather who was sleeping there, and that Babaji called Shastriji in the middle of the night. Babaji, on the picture on the wall, spoke to get the mother out of the room now, instantly. And as soon as he did that, the ceiling came down. How was it again exactly? You must have heard that story many times. Would be wonderful to hear this conversation there, huh?
And understand it. I don't. You need to.
It happened in Rajgarh, where the room where Shastriji used to sleep, and there was a big Babaji's photograph there. This is what you are talking, this episode. Can I bring for a moment Shastriji live?
Sorry?
Can I bring Shastriji for a video for a moment? Just for a change, for 1 minute? Can I show?
Sure, if you know how to do it.
Let me see if I can.
Sure.
So as he's setting up, so the gist of the story is he was told to have his wife move out of that space before the ceiling collapsed. Yeah. Are you able to do it, DRT? Otherwise, I can also post the link to that so people can see it directly.
Yeah, warmly recommend to see that if you somehow are inspired by Shastriji.
Please do.
The movie is really wonderful.
Please do. Yeah, great.
Who hasn't shared from the family? Dipti?
I will ask Kashi, because he used to dance with Shastriji. He will share for 1 or 2 minutes how Shastriji used to dance with him. Kashi, be online?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Kashi Vishwanath. I'm son of B.R.K. Mishra, and I have a few memories with Shastriji. Unfortunately, I didn't meet Babaji, but yes, with Shastriji, because I was a kid and we used to go for summer holidays. So when he used to see me and my sister and my father, he used to start dancing, and there was a place where we used to live, because we used to live in the south of India. So the name of the place was Kukatpalli. So he used to dance Kukatpalli, Kukatpalli, Kukatpalli when we used to visit him. Also, because Shastriji, unfortunately, he's no more with us, but still I feel he's with me, because my name Kashi Vishwanath was given to me by Shastriji. He somehow didn't like my name, which my parents gave me. So he told my father that no, you need to change this name and keep Kashi Vishwanath as his name. Also, I miss Shastriji's wife, Choti Amma, because she used to cook wonderful food on I think it was after Diwali. We have a kind of brunch for all the people of the family, and also from people in the in the locality. So it's called Ankut, and she used to prepare that by herself for as many as 50 or 100 people. So yes, I miss both of them, and I hope they must they may be seeing us and blessing us as we talk about them. Thank you.
Thank you, Kashi.
Musulmani.
Sorry?
Musulmani, he was calling her, no? His wife.
No. I think because
I see Sheila laughing. I think she knows.
Okay, because I used to be okay.
Masterni. He used to call Masterni. Hello. Yeah. He used to call Masterni.
Masterni. Masterni means teacher.
Teacher.
Yeah. Sheila knows more. I can see her laughing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want Pinky to speak, because everybody is calling her name, and if I can translate for her, but now she is visible. Pinky?
Pinky, where are you?
Pinky?
Yeah, maybe
Pinky, because she was taking care of everybody there.
Yeah,
When
I don't see.
She's not there anymore.
Right. But I do see Randy on. Randy, are you still there? Maybe.
I'm here, Bole Baba Kiche.
Randy is another Westerner that from California that spent many times. So I thought I'd share a story.
Well, it's so good to see everyone. And I feel so blessed to have known Shastriji and been given the privilege of staying in the guest house with many of the other Western ladies. And I too feel like Shastriji was very much like a grandfather figure. I didn't get as much time as many of you and Raghu and all that. It was just a little gem, you know, at different Navaratris, etc. But I too lost my grandfather and my mother at age 9. So when I met him, I just felt my heart just open so greatly. And, you know, he just looked in my eyes and said, tell me, you know, tell me everything. And I just felt like he really was so incredibly present. And again, what many of us have said, that unconditional love was so potent, so alive. And at the time, the idea was I was studying, you know, with Angela and Marge and with Ramloti. And many years ago, I thought maybe I would, you know, be part of opening up a center of some sort in Hawaii. So Sandra had said, you know, Shastriji, you know, can you give the blessings of that to Randy? And you know, he said yes. That hasn't come into fruition, and that's okay. But he did give me a mantra and gave me the blessing of doing jara, just because I had done a lot of different healing work, and that was such a gem. So I plan on getting out my jara peacock feathers very soon to do with the girls on our book study on Friday. But yeah, the other funny story was that, you know, I had been given the name Ram Priya or Ram Pyari, depending upon who is pronouncing it. And so I've had this connection, you know, this deep connection with Hanuman. And so I was in Shastriji's garden and whatnot, and just, you know, doing, I think, the Hanuman Chalisa. Anyway, I came back into my room and I found these monkeys, you know, going into my stuff everywhere in the room. And you know, like, I didn't know if I should be, you know, I felt like I was scared, but I was blessed at the same time. So anyway, I just said, you know, Jai Hanuman, and, you know, they went on their way. And then I remember looking through the window often where I stayed at Shastriji's, and I would see the monkeys, you know, the mama, the baby, or whatever, just kind of walking around. And anyway, just such a blessing to be in with his family and be welcomed and loved so much. So thank you all for being here and sharing. Bole Baba Ki Jai.
Raghu, do you have some more to share? A million more stories? Or BRK, if you think of somebody else that should share something that would like,
let's
please.
somebody else.
I'm looking at Pinky if she can speak something, but at the same time, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ma Ramaloti, because once, I think in 2014, somebody called me and he said that Shastriji's ancestral village, some old sculptures are found in the fields, and it belongs to Shastriji's ancestors in a place called Machari, about 20 kilometers from Rajgarh. That time I was not having funds to construct a temple for those, because all those belong to the ancestors of Shastriji, and Ramlotima was very kind enough to finance that temples, and we constructed a temple there. And personally, she blessed us. She visited Machadi, and the temples are there where that time it was built in 2014, I think. So thank you very much for that help, and it was for Shastriji's ancestors. That time it was very, very helpful that your help in that. And you personally came there. I think I drove you from Dr. Lal's place to Rajgarh, and then evening we came back, if you recollect. Thank you very much.
We did a hub in there. But the other thing I want to remember is that you and I were with Shastriji, and Shastriji, it's your father's book about old Haidakhandi Babaji, which had been put into a book called Old Haidakhandi Babaji Known and Unknown, but that wasn't complete. And so you had the manuscript, or Shastriji did, and you were willing to take it and have it translated into somewhat of English, and then it was given to me to bring home to America to further translate and edit. And that was quite a journey, and I can't recommend that book enough. It's called, we named it From Age to Age. The old Haidakhandi Baba. And I have to say, in editing that, I must have read it at least 15 times. And I love that book. So for inspiration, it's available here at the ashram, and we're happy to share it with anybody, or send a bundle to India, or bring it next time. There's many at the Haidakhandi shop and places like that too. But it's a great gift. And so I thank you, BRK, for making that, being sort of the bridge between Shastriji and your father and this wonderful manuscript, and now having it in quite lovely English. So,
thank you.
Yes, Ramlote we all the members of Shastriji's family are grateful to you and express gratitude for providing an opportunity to get connected with the community of Babaji's followers and Shastriji's friends. And it is definitely a first opportunity for me to get connected with this community. I'm really very grateful at my personal level. And one thing I like to add regarding Shastriji is he was a fountain of energy. Like Raghuvi told us, when he got the book, he jumped from his seat. It was his nature. He was very energetic and enthusiastic. Whenever something appealed to him, he jumped off his seat and began to dance. It was his nature. And he was master of one thing more, getting connected with the people. He was very easily accessible, and getting connected and breaking the ice was his expertise. I can recall an event at the second or third visit to Rajgarh after my wedding with Lakshmi. I was sitting quiet with him. It was very difficult to sit quiet with him because he was very active. And he didn't find, when she saw that I was sitting quiet, he just spoke to me. Kumar Sahab, I have written this Haidakhandi Saptati and I have memorized it. Will you like to listen it? Now, it was very difficult for a person of small personality to challenge him, his wisdom and his memory. He wanted me to challenge his wisdom and memory. Sorry, not his memory. He said me that I have memorized. I said, I know you have memorized, but no, you please test me. He gave his book to my hands and began speaking. It was just an attempt to break the ice and get connected, I must say. And definitely, he was a very versatile person, very much down to earth, and a combination of both the worlds, I must tell you, divine world as well as materialistic world. He didn't teach for going to divine world only. He always said that the way to move to divine world is to get satisfied by every means. And if you wish to achieve divine world, you must go through your gurus and saints. It was his preaching to me. And he said one thing to me, this Haidakhandi Sapsati will transform your life. And I'm really definitely grateful to him. Haidakhandi Sapsati has transformed my life. I'm very much sure. Bole Baba ki jai.
Bole Baba ki jai. Thank you. Sheila, do you want to tell a story? BRK said he would help if you need. It's just lovely to have you. Thank you. So if somebody else would like to share something, I know more people have met. Oh, I think Monica, did you have Manjula, did you have your hand up? Oh, and also Shivani. So 2 people have their hand up. Who would like to share or ask a question? Shivani?
Can I say something? Yeah, can I say something?
Sure.
Yeah, actually, I want to know whom do I get in touch with. I am in Nainital currently, and I planned many a times to go to the ashram and stay there, meet. But I get this response that it's COVID and the entry and the stay and the the darshan is not allowed right now. So anybody who can guide me here nearby, whom do I get in touch with to know more about Babaji, his work, right? That's what I want to know.
In Nainital?
Yeah, I'm in Nainital.
Because you're not so far from the Raniket Ashram. And
True,
now
yes.
Navaratri is about to start there. And I've heard that for Navaratri, the ashram will be open in a particular way for a few days or something. I don't know why the Babaji's ashram is the most closed ashram of the whole Kumaun, but they're being extremely careful. But I think that is the best way and the best moment during Navaratri to get some experience and to get the feeling also, particularly because there is many lovely stories which we can share about Babaji and about Shastriji, but the real thing is the experience of them. And if you go there in these days, then you will get a real taste. But you might need to contact before what is possible. And if you are you on Facebook?
Yeah, I would prefer to stay there for a few days.
Now, are you on Facebook? Then you could connect to the secretary.
Yes, I am on Facebook.
You can connect to the secretary of the Samaj, which is called Sanjeev Sarna. And if you connect him, then you can find out how it is, how the ashram is accessible.
Could you please repeat the name, Sanjeev?
Sanjeev Sarna, Sarna.
Okay.
And
right.
Shivani, is your Facebook page the same as your name?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll make sure you get something, okay?
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Have you.
Yeah.
Manjula?
Okay, now I did it. It was reminding me, some women said the story how she met Shastriji. And it was coming in my mind how I met Shastriji when I was in Haidakhandi the first time on Christmas. And it was, I don't know the year, all the Indian children get uniforms for Christmas. And there were Muniraji I loved, and there were the Shastriji, I don't know. And I thought, who is this man? I mean, there were all people make pranam to Muniraji and to Shastriji, and I thought, I don't make pranam to Shastriji. I don't know him, and I have no connection with this man, and I don't do that. I can be very, I just don't do things I have no connection with. So, and then I thought, oh, this is difficult when I go to make pranam to Munirati. I mean, this is very rude not to make pranam to Shastriji. So I prayed to Babaji and said, oh, please, Babaji and Munirati, could you please help me? Who is this man? Who is this Shastriji? I don't know. And then this word opened up that for me, he was like the Haidakhandi. And I was like, he's, I mean, it's my thing, he's Haidakhandi. And Shastriji looked at me and he was, yes, and he was always making this, the third eye. And then I fall in love with Shastriji and I was, oh, he's, and then for me, I had this connection and I think this was really great. And also one time in Holland, at a big yagya, there were no space, around the fire. They were crowded, was crowded. And I thought, oh, I sneak in behind, and I sit on the backside near Shastriji. So I sit on the feet from Shastriji when he read the Saptasati. And it was like 1 minute and the yagya was over and I was in a complete another world. It was like all the energy of Shastriji came down and I was the whole day knocked out. I was not there anymore. It was fantastic, So for me, yeah, and when then later, many years later, a friend called that he died. It was like that my father died. I was so sad and I was crying and crying. It was, and still I miss him very much. Yes. So this is this I want to share. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you to everybody. We have a couple more minutes if anybody else would like to share or ask a question. Mahalakshmi, are you still here? Mahalakshmi, did you want to sing a song?
I am here.
Would you like to
Actually,
hear a chant to finish?
I can sing the same mantra as last time, if you like.
It would be lovely. So usually we finish with one of our bhajans. Pujari would be here today, but he's flying to Holland from his home in Russia to be for the Navratri and also to see his new granddaughter and family. And so I've asked Mahalakshmi, who was on the Satsang with Imam last time, and they finished with a beautiful chant. So we'll do a small chant and then we'll all say goodbye. But before that, I just want to thank everybody. I'm overwhelmed, like many people mentioned, with the beauty and the love. And so it actually works best if we all mute. So if you could mute and then you can sing along, but it won't sound all discordant like it can.
Okay. Boli Baba Ki Jai, Mahamaya Ki Jai. This is Guru Mantra and it's in a 7-beat. So I'll sing the melody twice and you can feel free if you know it by the time I end the first time, then you can sing along. That would be lovely. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshvara Guru Sakshat Para Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Dhyanamulam Guru Mukti Pujamulam Guru Padam Mantramulam Guru Vakyam Mokshamulam Guru Kripa Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshvara Guru Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Jnanamulam Gurur Murti Pujamulam Gurur Padam Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam Mokshamulam Guru Kripa. Thank you. Bole Baba Ki Jai.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone. Good to see Terry and Melody there, and more people that have joined in as we've gone on. And thank you. And next week we will not have a satsang because of Navaratri. We'll be full to the brim. But the following week, which I think is about the 16th, maybe it would be, Pujari will be leading it from Holland and interviewing many of the Dutch devotees, but open to all of us to share about our Navratri experience so that we can all stay connected. So I invite Shastriji's family to be here and everyone. The great joy of my week. And we post it now on YouTube, and usually another 400 people or so are watching also. And I received many comments thanking all of you for your participation and love and wisdom and inspiration during this time where we may feel a little, it's a challenging time. So Baba said, this is the time to come together in groups for satsang and for sharing of the truth so we can encourage one another. Anything else?
Bole Baba Ki Jai.
Bole Baba Ki Jai.
Bole Baba Ki Jai.
Thank you.
Bole Baba Ki Jai.
Jai.
Bole Baba Ki Jai.
Bole Baba Ki Jai.
Love you all. Bye-bye.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Bole Baba Ki Jai.